Welcome to the Central Committee stream. I'm sure this is very weird to you. If you're not familiar with Twitch, I welcome you to Twitch. This is a live streaming platform where the left has, believe it or not, kind of taken over politics here. So we do, this is different than YouTube because we do things live here, primarily live. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves? What you're campaigning on, a little bit about yourselves, and then we'll have a conversation and try to get you guys some help. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right. Missy, go ahead. Why don't you start by explaining who you are, what you're running for, and kind of give me a little bit of an insight into the politics of your area.
Sure. So my name is Missy Zombor. I am running for the citywide Milwaukee Public School Board seat. So we're here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm a longtime labor activist, Milwaukee DSA member since 2019. I'm also the parent of a 13-year-old who attends Milwaukee Public Schools. And so as an activist, I've gotten really thrust into the fight in Milwaukee to protect our public schools. So I'm running to make sure that we have someone on the board who will put public schools first. We've seen over the years what happens when you put someone on the school board who doesn't have the best interests of students at heart. And we've seen how one vote can turn families' lives upside down overnight. And so I am running to make sure that every child, regardless of their zip code in the city, has access to a quality public school. And so really proud to have the endorsement of the National Democratic Socialist of America, along with a lot of other labor unions here in town.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Missy. Sam, why don't you jump in and explain what you're running for? And are you guys running as a slate, just as a question? Are you running together completely?
We're part of the national DSA slate. So
Okay.
I mean, we're in the same organization. So I mean, we're in different municipalities. So running as a slate, I don't know if that makes sense. But I'm running. I'm running for village trustee, and this is our first foray into suburban politics here in Milwaukee DSA. So I'm in Shorewood, which is a little village just north of Milwaukee. I'm a professor at Marquette University right now. So I'm familiar with Twitch because being a professor makes you realize how out of touch you are. You know what the students are doing, but you have no idea about it yourself. But in any case, they'll think this is very cool. So I appreciate that. In any case.
Well, maybe.
What's that?
Maybe.
I'm gonna don't burst my bubble, man. But it's I'll tell them about this and we'll see how that goes. In any case, I was 15 years in state and federal government. I ended up at Marquette 7 years ago. I teach political science and history there. I've been involved in a lot of labor organizing, both at Marquette and elsewhere in the community. Joined DSA in 2016 and recently, after some conversations with our elected officials and some other people in DSA, decided to take a run at village trustee here in Shorewood. Primarily, it's, we can talk about this more as we go on, but, what I would like to do is use the kind of limited authority we have at the local level to leverage some good things, for the community as a whole, as opposed to just, kind of meeting the needs of the corporations that want to locate in our area. And so, what I'm looking to do is find a way to leverage good, accessible, quality housing that's going to allow more people to move into the community and use our schools. I'm interested in making sure that if we're doing, we're engaging in economic development work with corporate partners, that we're getting, we're facilitating union organization, that we're ensuring high wages, and that that we have quality jobs. I'm also, I think something we should talk about is, as well as the state of democracy here in the state of Wisconsin, which is abysmal. And I want to use this platform as a way to kind of deepen democracy here at the local level, so we can kind of push back at what is essentially a one-party state here in the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah, this is one question I had for both of you. Is obviously, like, local government is important, and I wouldn't say that it's not worth it. Obviously, like Milwaukee and the sewer socialist history, which, I'm sure maybe you're not used to talking about it, but just for the chat and people watching, basically they had a socialist municipal government that kind of was incredibly successful for over 30 years because they delivered. You know, like they said, we're going to provide concrete gains for the standard of living of people, and we're going to make them aware that it's related to politics, right? Like, we did this. We built the parks. We built the schools. We built the pools. We built the sewers. We did this. We built the public transit. And your life is better because of your involvement in politics. And that was, I think the first socialist was actually in American history was elected from Wisconsin. Vic Berger, I believe, is who it was. And he was actually denied his seat by Congress. He won, and he went to Congress, and they said, no socialists allowed. And they just didn't let him sit. And Milwaukee sent him back again. And the second time's the charm. They let him take his seat. So that's, that kind of historical example. I hope you don't mind me taking that diversion, is important because it shows you that even if the policies you support are popular, even if you have that democratic mandate, how are you going to deal with the higher forms of government kind of trying to constrain what you can do? And do you see your job as a democratic socialist elected official to implement socialist policy or to advocate for, a kind of gadfly-esque pushback against the system? What do you think, Missy?
Well, just a fun tangent about Victor Berger. His wife, Meta Berger, was actually on the school board for 30 years and was really instrumental in passing, fighting for penny lunches and making sure that teachers who were married had, especially women who were married, had a right to teach. So the history goes deep into Milwaukee public schools. But I think fundamentally, one of the reasons that the school board is so important is because it gives us democratic control of our public resources. And so I think that, when we're talking about socialist policy, fundamentally what's at stake right now in Milwaukee is ensuring that, we have self-determination over our public schools. Because public education is a civil right and public responsibility. And there are people in Milwaukee and there are people in the state that want to see appointed school board that's appointed by the mayor or the county executive. There's people running for school board right now advocating for that. The Chamber of Commerce has it in their legislative priorities. There's these intermediary groups that are fighting for that. So kind of at the root of it is making sure that we're keeping democratic control.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And, one of the things about Wisconsin, Professor, that I wanted to ask you about is how the democratic, viability of Wisconsin has been completely compromised at the state level. It's not a democracy. It's a fraud. And the elections are rigged. And they're intended to have one result. And they're pretty much scientifically derived so that no matter what happens as far as a reasonable swing in sentiment, Democrats can't win. Maybe they could win a statewide office like the governor, but they're not going to win the state legislature. I know that you guys have a really important race for Supreme Court, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So what are you guys trying to do to kind of restore democracy to Wisconsin? And how are you concerned about what's been tested and trialed in Wisconsin spreading even further?
Yeah, we're the canary in the coal mine on this stuff. It's happening everywhere. And really, my real political awakening and where I really came to left politics was my experience as a state employee back during the Act 10 protests back in 2011, which is where Scott Walker took away bargaining rights from public employees, also cut pay, did a number of other things. It's what we've seen, is that guy effectively knew how to use power, and he gerrymandered the state to the extent that it is literally impossible for the Democratic Party ever to win a majority in the state legislature.
Virtually impossible. Yeah.
It's impossible. Absolutely. That was challenged at the Supreme Court level, and the court said that it couldn't act. We are we do have, I think the first thing, or the most immediate thing, is that there is a Supreme Court race currently that
the federal
that
Supreme
could
Court.
flip-
Sorry to interrupt you. That was a
Oh, sure.
federal Supreme Court decision based on the federal Constitution that
Yep.
basically political gerrymandering is permitted under the Constitution because there's no actionable standard that the court could apply. That was their argument. Like, we're too incompetent and stupid to be able to detect gerrymandering, so we're just going to let you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we're seeing is that there's a Supreme Court race. We elect our justices here in the state of Wisconsin. That could flip the court towards, kind of the center left, center left side of the ledger. And I would imagine that court would act to try to kind of make the maps a little bit more democratic. I don't know that we can count on that, just simply because the National Supreme Court has seen fit to act and stop kind of redrawing the maps in the past. So while I think it's important we win the Supreme Court race, I think the other thing, and as socialists, I think we know this very deeply. What we need to do is start organizing, using our positions to organize people to create a coherent and a powerful pushback against these these corrupt politicians from the ground on up. Right. This has got to be a grassroots movement where we do this work. From starting just with relational organizing. And I think in terms of what I see my role as a socialist politician at the local level, I mean, first and foremost, it's an opportunity to start to use that position to help organize, right? Organize, to assist the labor movement, organize to create a more democratic Wisconsin. And then we also have leverage at the local level on issues of regulation, issues of zoning, issues of economic development, where we can leverage that authority for tangible gains for working people. So I think that's what I see. But I think really we have to see this. We have to see this role as we have to be both good at our jobs, but also use this role as an opportunity to organize people.
So, Missy, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, what is the socialist response to the kind of I think the best way to describe it is woke panic, or the idea that there's some sort of cabal of anti-American socialists who want to brainwash your children into becoming trans America haters. I think that's what it really comes down to, and that queer people are dangerous around children. How do we respond to that kind of far right push, which seems to have taken over the Republican Party? And that's going to be something that you're going to be dealing with as a school board member.
Well, I will say, fortunately, in Milwaukee, we're seeing that rhetoric used more in the suburbs, and it's actually hasn't really reached Milwaukee yet. But I work for Rethinking Schools, which is a education publisher that publishes teaching materials for social justice, anti-racist teaching. So we are seeing this nationally, where our books are being banned in certain states, and we're being attacked. But I think that it's meant to be this all-purpose boogeyman used to attack our public schools. And we just need to keep doing the work and not let it distract us, and make sure that we are, affirming transgender students, affirming and embracing anti-racist curriculum, and just not let it distract us. But I will say, fortunately, in Milwaukee, our school board has not seen the attacks that we're seeing in other districts across the state. We're seeing attacks, very different attacks, actually. We're seeing attacks meant to further privatize our schools, and they use different methods for us, because the ones they use in the suburbs don't work in Milwaukee.
Yeah, this is actually, you're gonna have to give me 1 second to ramble, because I want to give people a really in-depth understanding of local politics and education politics on my stream, which is basically, in America, we have what has been termed the urban growth regime, where you have suburban Republicans, rural Republicans kind of capture these urban areas that are overwhelmingly Democratic, and there's a donor exchange where they pick the most right-wing Democrat in the city to accept the right-wing donor money, and then push selected policies which will substantially weaken the Democratic Party statewide locally, things like charter schools, things like anti-teacher union rhetoric. Teachers unions are often one of the strongest left-wing organizations within American politics, within state and local politics. Like, you'll get a large amount of, not necessarily socialist, but like money towards people that believe kids should get an education. Comes to the Democratic side by teachers unions. They're a pillar of that. So, for example, just now in New Orleans, I think they have no more public schools. I think I just read this yesterday or the other day that they have no more public schools. So how are you confronting those right-wing Democrats, Missy, who are pushing this anti-teacher union, anti-public school agenda in favor of provenly ineffective charter school programs, voucher programs, etc.?
So we've had numerous privatization takeover attempts on Milwaukee public schools. We defeated a mayoral takeover attempt before my son started going to MPS. And then while more recently, we defeated a state mandated takeover that they called the Opportunity School Partnership Program, which we called the Takeover Plan. And we were able to stall that long enough, get the charter czar to resign and defeat it. But now we're seeing, we are seeing another attempt there. And what they're trying to do is essentially get people on the school board who are sympathetic to those ideas, rather than having the state say, okay, you have to privatize this many of, quote, failing, or what I would say, schools that have been failed by the people in power. They're trying to get people on the school board who will give charter schools sweetheart deal leases, give them their charter contracts. Right. And these are like really awful charter schools. We actually had a school board member a few years back who took a $6,000 bribe from some Philly charter operators just to essentially speak positively about a charter school contract and help get a charter school contract passed. And that school closed down in the middle of the night over it was either a spring or winter break, and just totally abandoned students and families. And so that's what we're up against. But I think that, making sure that we're making our schools better and defending public schools. And in Milwaukee, like the language, if you talk about a public school takeover, like that's actually very, very, very negative to people. People do want to support their public schools, even if they don't send their kids to public schools. And so we've been able to successfully defeat a few, and we're just going to keep doing it.
Sam, do you have any thoughts? I hope you don't mind me calling you Sam. I'll call you Samuel.
Please call me Sam. No, I nobody calls me Samuel. It's always jarring when I hear it. No, I think, we are facing, we're facing pressures in Shorewood as well. It's not I think there's these self-selected like progressive suburbs, I think that emerge. And so we're not seeing the same sort of, moral panics here that that you're seeing elsewhere. Some of it's here, but it's not a huge thing. In terms of how we're affected and how public schools are being harmed here in this area. I think the big thing is that structurally at the state level, we've seen an erosion of school aids, a huge cut in school aids from the state level that happened under Scott Walker when he first came into office, that we still haven't recovered to this date. And so despite even if you have a well-meaning school board, the pressures on the budget in these areas are so severe that there's always a constant conflict between facilities and teachers and staff, and how do you make this budget fit together? And you see that, and you also see in areas like this, kind of consistent referendums trying to increase the level of school funding from a local level, but over time that wears at people as well. And so really, I think we see the charter school push, which is again about undermining teachers unions, undermining public education, but at the state level as well, their austerity politics are really setting the groundwork for all of this. So and everybody in the state is facing that. We've seen a statewide teacher shortage as a result of that.
Yeah, I mean that tracks with the national trends. One of the theses that I have on my stream now is like, all politics is local is dead. People are talking about international talking points. You know, I just heard the other day that they're saying Lee wokes me in France. Okay, like, you know, the idea of woke politics, woke mind virus. This is an international situation, and people are not taking their news from local sources or from community groups as much anymore, but rather like the social media that they watch, like this stream as an example. So we have this like very difficult situation. So I'm glad you guys haven't, you know, experienced it too much in your area. But, you know, if I could have a little bit of advice as a former socialist politician myself, having a idea of what you're going to say in the moment might be a good idea for you, because if you could say something really like snappy, that might be something that gives you national attention. It could happen. So being prepared for like some lunatic saying that you're showing child porn at the school board meeting might be a good idea. And you know, being a proud advocate of your beliefs. I think one of the things is like, I think this is the, you know, if I have an advice section, being unashamed and being proud and saying, yeah, I think that every kid should get this, and making a strong moral case is attractive to people. It's something that's really missing from Democratic politics overall. Is, you know, it's always this conciliatory bowing of the head toward Republicans, as opposed to like, F you, I believe in public schools, you know? You know, that's my personal style. So one thing I always try to ask local politicians, because, you know, I started running as a lefty, just so you know who I am, in 2014. You know, I come from politics. You know, after I finished law school in 2013, I got involved in local politics right away. And basically I realized that there was no like institutional knowledge of how to run a campaign. So how do you guys feel that you've been supported as candidates by the DSA? Do you have any kind of like criticisms that you want to air, or advice? It doesn't have to be negative, about running for local office for anybody in my audience who might want to do it.
Yeah, I think now that we've been through a few DSA campaigns, it gets easier each one. You know, our electoral working group volunteers have really learned through trial and error what works and what doesn't. And so I think the most important thing is that after the first campaign, really doing summation on what worked and what didn't.
A post-mortem.
Post-mortem, yep. And that's been really helpful for us to look back at, you know, where we made mistakes our first campaigns so that we can continue to improve. And now, I mean, I think since when I joined in 2019, DSA Electoral Working Group was like 5 people sitting on a couch in a house. And now it's really grown into a well-oiled machine where we can consistently get out dozens of volunteers every weekend knocking on doors.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So but I think we're going to make mistakes and we just have to learn from them. And we do things a little bit differently than the party would. So, and that's okay. That's where our strength lies.
Yeah, do you have any thoughts as a, you know, somebody, you said a suburban right. Socialist? How is that feeling? Because it's funny, you know, in my area, I have to say, Pennsylvania, the left in Pennsylvania certainly hasn't taken over everything, but is a force to be reckoned with, and is something that people, and I'm glad to see the same is happening in Milwaukee.
I think in Milwaukee, we've really focused on, you know, kind of the practical tasks necessary to do things like, you know, help with labor campaigns and with electoral work, especially where we've been particularly successful. So field operations are run out of DSA. We have volunteer wrangling from DSA. Usually there's, you know, you can, you know, a campaign manager will either volunteer or work for a cut rate cost from DSA. Yeah. So we have a ton of resources within the chapter that just gives us a huge advantage over people who are paying consultants and having to raise more money and things like that. And I will also say, just to you know, kind of you know, pump Missy up a little bit. She is brilliant in terms of how you run these campaigns, and she's been an incredible asset just in her own right to you know, kind of our electoral success. So I just wanted to note that there. She's been a huge help to me.
Sam. I will say we got, you know, Darren Madison, who's in the state assembly now. I mean,
Who we
he got
met on this
outraised.
stream already, and we
Yeah,
helped raise a little bit of money for him.
He got outraised quite a bit, and we still won that race. And I think it was because of the people power on the ground doing the work. So we might not always raise as much money as our opponents, but we definitely make an impact.
So where would, like, how do you guys have like a fundraising goal? Do you have a budget? Like, what's your plan with any money that you get? What are you going to use it for? And how are you raising it?
Yeah, I mean, we're just like any campaign, we have more individual. Actually, my top donor right now, other than the teachers unions, is a truck driver, a DSA member truck driver who believes in public schools. So, you know, we are picking up the phone, making calls, having fundraisers like any campaign would. But what makes DSA candidates different is that we make pledges to never accept corporate or private for-profit PAC industry money. And, you know, I've also made an additional pledge not to take money from anyone who sits on the board of a privately operated charter school. So, you know, while our opponents might take that money, we're not going to.
That would be a major red flag for me if I saw someone taking money from charter schools. That's pretty much corruption, in my opinion. Like without, like, should be criminal. And I'm not serious. I'm serious. Like, I think you should go to prison for that. It's blatantly, you know, they're taking public dollars and then giving it to a politician to take public dollars. It's a direct line from the taxpayer to their pocket. It's disgusting. Sorry for the ramble, but yeah, that's my pet peeve. This is what makes me excited about local politics, is that when we have organizations just like my stream or DSA, you can build something up with just determination that is going to challenge millions of dollars of corporate money, because they don't care. They're in it for a paycheck. They're lazy. They're connected. They're corrupt. You can beat them by having normal conversations with your neighbors and fundraising.
And it, you know, just to jump in there, it doesn't take, you don't need to have hundreds and hundreds of people doing this either, because the muscles, the grassroots organizing muscles in the two major parties right now are so atrophied that, you know, DSA and its ability to, like Missy said, maybe turn 12 people out to a canvas on the weekend, or 20 people, right? That's a huge advantage. And we don't, you know, we can reach people at their doors where other people have to do mailers, which costs money. We don't need to, we have people doing field for us, so we don't have to hire consultants to do this stuff. And so we have ways of you know, we have force multipliers that allow us to really kind of, you know, make real gains and advantages that you just can't have if you're from one of the two major established parties at this point. We have the capacity to really, you know, to really capitalize on commitment, enthusiasm, and principle. And I think that's something that we've really shown over the past 3 years here.
Yeah, I'd also say that paid canvassers, in my experience, don't do as well as volunteer canvassers who know candidates and believe in it. So you can have someone who's paying $25 an hour for a heck of a lot of doors, and the impact is just not going to be as great.
Yeah. So maybe I distracted you, but did you guys have a goal that you were fundraising for? Like, what do you plan on using any money that you get? What would, like, if I said to my chat, give them money, what would that money go for, and how much do you need?
Well, I need between $80,000 and $100,000. I'm not there yet.
A lot.
And basically, all of the money that I get between now and next week Thursday is going to my last mailer, to make my last mailer as big as possible, and then the rest of it is going to continue to print literature, so that we have something for canvassers to take out. We're actually running out of lit, like almost. I'm printing thousands of pieces, and
because you're knocking so many doors.
Yeah, and it's expensive. Like the literature, like the printing costs with paper has skyrocketed. So really, we just need more money for union printed lit so that we can go have these really important conversations.
And same, yeah. All my money goes towards lit, and then and funding the mailer. And so, I'm trying to raise another couple of $1,000s here so I can do a mailer to the entire community. Right now, it's just going to be targeted at renters, but I would like to get it out to everybody. And so that's kind of what I'm looking to do here.
Yeah, that's great. And when is your guys' election?
April 4th.
April 4th. So we're coming up. You're running out of time. You got this is it. How many doors have you guys knocked? Do you know?
I mean,
and how many votes do you need?
I haven't looked recently, and my van switched over to a different van. So, but it's, thousands for sure, definitely thousands. And then, just to get on the ballot alone, I had to get a minimum of 1,500 signatures. So between
that's a shit ton. That's more than you need for Congress in Pennsylvania. You only need 1,000 for Congress.
We got 2,500 signatures. And so some of that was not doors. That's like going up to schools, knocking on car door windows during pickup and drop off lines. So it's hard to put an exact number on how many people we've talked to, but definitely thousands.
That's great.
Yeah, same here. Certainly a smaller community. Missy's got the whole city to deal with. I got a community of 10,000. So my win number's about, we were thinking about 1,800. We'll see what turnout is, but I think that's we're well on our way there. And in terms of doors, we've almost knocked the entire city. We're going to start in the second round probably later this week.
Yeah, that's great. And my personal belief, this is going to be harder for you, Missy, just because you have such a large population. It gets difficult. But for you, Sam, I think you can win your race with your own shoe leather. You have got to knock the doors yourself. I'm sure you've heard this all before, and I'm not telling you anything you haven't heard before. But
oh yeah, I'm going out in a couple hours here. So yeah, no, I got you.
Yeah. So yeah, Chad, I'm gonna put in the chat here. I'm gonna put in the link. If any of you guys could throw any amount of money to donate, I think this is split evenly between you two. Is this right? Double down. I'll get it started, Chad. I'll throw you guys 500, and then I want to make sure that you guys get something for showing up today, and hopefully my chat, some of you reach out and then help them as well. And if you're in the area, go volunteer. They only got a couple more weeks left. It's not a big commitment. Go knock a door or two. Do you have a volunteer sign-up link anywhere that you can give me? I'll send you the 500 now.
I can send you the Google form.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, and we are also doing like self-serve, so you can reach out to the campaign, and if someone is
it's in the chat. I see it. If you guys want to help the local politicians who get it, this is the only way. I think one of the things about politics, especially left-wing politics, is a lot of people feel like there's no way that they can change the course of history. It feels like maybe we're aware, maybe we have that consciousness, but we don't have the agency. Well, there you go, chat. You asked me for agency. There it is. There it is. So you have no more excuses. If you can't show up in person and you have the money, contribute. If you're in the area, show up. And the best part is meeting other like-minded, passionate people to work together toward a goal is one of the best things you can do to cure those feelings of alienation and isolation that we all have within our capitalist society. So get out there, help. And I already donated, so I hope some of you donate as well. So is there anything you guys wanted to get out there? Any message or ask you have? And then I'll let you guys get back to the home stretch of your campaign.
Can I just tell like a quick 1 minute?
Take your you got 5 minutes.
So a lot of people, they think, oh, school board, I don't have kids, how does it, is it really going to make that big of a difference? And when my son first started attending Milwaukee Public Schools, he went to a school that did not have an art teacher, a music teacher. The playground was falling apart, and the carpeting in the K-4 classroom was older than me. And, we had to fight, and we had to fight for a referendum. We had to fight for the resources we needed. We had to fight for policies that put art, music, and Ed back into our schools. And we were able to do that. Now that school has an art teacher, it has a music teacher, it's getting a new playground. So there's very real basic needs that need to be met in all of our public schools. We're not there yet, and I'm running to continue that fight. But it does absolutely make a difference to 70,000 MPS students in the city of Milwaukee.
Yeah, and I want to say that your victory will be hugely important because having someone whose perspective is in favor of the teachers and the students and who is not conflicted will really put a lot of pressure on all the other school board members as well. I want to really underline that, in Philadelphia, we have progressive politicians. We had a Working Families Party won a city council seat as a third party, and having people who are unabashedly progressive and representing not corporations, not connected groups, not real estate developers or other bullshit, you will make a huge difference in disciplining the other Democrats that are maybe more centrist and forcing them to change their tune a bit. So it's really important, if you care about the direction of politics in this country, you should be caring about Wisconsin. It is one of the places that we're going to, it's going to determine our future as a nation. So please help out Missy. It'll make a big difference. All right, Sam, do you have anything for us?
I do. I think, you are limited at the local level as to what you can do. The authority you have is limited, but I do think that we're on the kind of the bleeding edge of kind of this national race to the bottom, where tax breaks and kind of exemptions from regulation are given to businesses just to attract them to your municipality to increase your tax code. And we're going to need local officials across the nation to push back against that, right? To ensure that when people are locating in our area, if they want to do business in our area, they have a responsibility, to maintain the values of the community, good jobs, affordable housing, sustainability, accessibility, et cetera. Right. So I think that's, pushing back in that race to the bottom has got to start at the local level.
Yeah. And this is actually one of my famous pet peeves, believe it or not, the ubiquitous TIF, which is the taxpayer financing of development, where basically rich people, because of their connection to politicians, can write themselves out of paying property taxes. And so I hope that you will take that seriously and avoid TIF schemes. They don't work. All that happens is you have to raise taxes on regular citizens, make up for the due services. I'm going to campaign on you. I'm lobbying you now. I'm a donor. I get to tell you what to do. I get to tell you what to do. I'm a donor. No TIFs. No TIFs.
You got it. That's why I'm running, man. That's my major issue there.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming on. Sorry about last week. I had internet outage. There was literally nothing I could do. I tried my best. So I apologize for that. But hopefully we'll raise you, $1,000 or so from coming on the stream. And I appreciate you guys for being here. If there's any other final messages, if not, I'll let you go. Do you guys have anything?
Thank you. This has been great.
The donations are rolling through. So
you're welcome. You're welcome. And chat, just so you know, we helped Ryan and Darren win, and they're now in the legislature, ripping things up, being awesome, pushing the Democratic Party to the left, and representing, the Democratic Socialists in an unabashed way. So I'm so proud of you guys for all the work you're doing in Milwaukee, and just know that it's noticed by people all over the country, all over the world, and we're rooting for you. So Get out there, knock doors. You're in the home stretch and win.